I started to take interest in music as early as 5. My dad had Deep Purple records, which I enjoyed immensely. It was due to those records that I fell in love with the sound of a distorted guitar. As soon as I acquired my first instrument, I, having no musical education whatsoever, immediately began to come up with my own music, and very soon I began to dream about my own band. And in a couple of years, I did join one. Before Powder Go Away was formed, I had managed to play nu metal, metalcore, death metal, and at the same time write down a lot of ideas in various styles at home. There was nothing spontaneous about starting Powder Go Away. By the time I already had a lot of new ideas in the style, I had demos and I began searching for musicians. The first one to be found was Zhenya. I rang him up and asked, "Do you wanna play post-rock?" His answer was a question, "Like what?" I said, "Well, like explosions in the sky." He agreed, and we had the first rehearsal later that day. And very soon, Pasha became our bass player. For a long time, the three of us rehearsed with programmed drums. There was no speaking about concerts, but we carried on with the search. Eventually, we were introduced to Ilya at a rehearsal studio, and our band finally became a genuine one. By the time the debut LP, Laika Wants to Go Home, was almost finished, and it wasn't long before we played our first gigs. And then we understood that Powder Go Away was here to stay. Laika and other albums were recorded and mixed at my home, and the drums on the first two records are programmed. The only exception is our latest work, Closer to Cold. It has live drums. And Ilya recorded them in a studio in Kolomna, a small town just outside Moscow. At first, I was influenced by the whole so-called post-rock mainstream, which is hardly even post-rock, but there were some names that brought me to the kind of music that still trembles my soul. For example, the Finnish band Callisto. Inspiration can come to me from fear, silence, nature, some global events in the world that worry me. Sometimes inspiration comes from books. For example, our track 37th Parallel was based on Jules Verne's In Search of the Castaways. It's great to compose music when you're home alone. Often I would turn off the lights in my room, leave the guitar gear to be the only source of light, and start droning on some musical phrase while playing drums and other parts in my head. Then I can spend the whole night recording demos based on those sketches. Despite the fact that every track has its source of inspiration, we tend not to think about anything in particular while we play. When you perform, you appreciate all those people coming here, and that at least within the confines of this club, in this particular period of time, there is no evil, no homicide, no lies. There is a warm atmosphere. I'd like to think that our gigs are a refuge from everything bad that surrounds us in our everyday life, a refuge for both the listeners and us, musicians.